Got it? So you might need to come closer for this next bit. Okay, so for the next bit, we're going to add the girth onto it. Obviously, I've got myself a nice relaxed horse that's falling asleep in the lovely sun here today. Like I said, he's probably not going to be very reactive, but it's a really good way of showing what I'm doing and what I'm thinking about, rather than me being so focused on the horse that I can't communicate that as well. So the first time, I always just put it on one hole on the right hand side. Okay, and so how I'm going to introduce this is, again, is I'm going to take my rein. Again, the head comes towards me, my hand comes up. The hind end comes towards me, my hand comes this way. But ultimately what I do, oh, we've got a reaction. So because we've got a reaction, I stop. I'm not going to push forward, as I'm going to wait for a little bit of relaxation. Like I said, he's coming back into work, so this is good. We've got a little bit. And what you're going to see that I'm doing here is I'm just playing with creating that girth, making sure that they can feel it. What I don't want to do, like I said before, is get it on, get away with it, and then they take a step back or take a movement and they go, oh, the girth's pinching, and suddenly explode on me. So it's on and off until the tail swishing kind of stops. We've got some flies around us today, until he goes back to a sleepy state, until I get onto the first hole. Now, once I'm on one hole and one hole either side, the very next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for my neutral. So I'm going to ask him for his head down. And if I can get a blow or a sigh or a lick and a chew, I will. We're not going to get this out of this sleepy horse today. Okay, the very next thing I'm going to do is I don't particularly want to move the horse forward. What I want the horse to do is move laterally through the rib cage to lift that back so that it can feel that pressure of the girth and the saddle. They can realize that it's not constricting them or pinning them down, and there's no reason to be claustrophobic because they can move, release tension by decompressing the back, and hopefully drop the head a little bit as well. So what I do is I take my outside rein, and just where my leg's going to go, I'm going to push until that rib cage yields, and I get something that looks like a turn on the forehand. And the second that rib cage yields is I'm going to click and I'm going to feed, because I want that to be built up, and I'm going to go back the other way. Good boy. The cross of the hind leg isn't as important to me as the moving of the rib cage. If the rib cage moves, the pelvic tilt is engaged, the back lifts up and lifts through the thoracic sling. So they completely decompress their back and lift their back, and they're going to get a really good feel of that girth in the saddle. So then I'm just going to go slowly. I'm going to pop it up a hole this side. Ask for a yield of the rib cage. Good. And then pop it up this side. Same thing. And then pop it up this side. And I'm just going to go until it's tight enough. I'm not going to go until it's over tight. It just needs to be tight enough. Now, immediately after I've got the saddle on and I've yielded this rib cage around a little bit, and they're getting a general idea of the feeling of everything, but they've also got this engagement with me from doing a groundwork exercise that I do prolifically with horses anyway, is I'm then going to move on to another exercise I do prolifically. So I do one rein stops from the ground, and I do them in the bridle like this. Is I'm going to send him out as if I'm going to lunge him, and then I'm going to bring his head back round, rein back to where my hip would be if I was riding. When the feet go still and the rein goes baggy, that's when I'm going to release, I'm going to click, and I'm going to reward. Back round to where my knee would be, up to where the outside of my hip would be. Now, I'm not Don't need a whole lot of bend in the neck. What I do need him to do is to lick and to chew, to move his jaw, not because it's a sign of relaxation, but because when he's moving his jaw and he's salivating, he's slowly going to start releasing the tension from his body. And that's really what I'm looking for. Obviously, same thing. If I get a horse that is going to start exploding at this point, is I'm going to bring them back round into my one range stop, and I'm going to wait for the settle. All the time the rein is tight like this, I'm just going to wait him out. And if he spins round and round and round, I just go with him. So nothing's about forcing. Everything's about asking a question, waiting for a release, waiting for the correct response, marking it and releasing it. Obviously, again, it goes without saying, we've got to take away any elements of pain or discomfort before we start working like this. If we're doing this on a really severe ulcery horse, you're probably going to end up with a lot of very big reactions, and by just pushing and pushing and pushing, you may get somewhat of a result, but the damage to the trust in the horse, because you're not listening to them, is going to be far too great, and it will come out in other areas. So it's all about going slow, listening to your horse and waiting for the next yes. Just because they say no, it doesn't mean we have to go and put them away and turn them back out. But if they do say no, we need to just wait a second and let them have their no, and then re-ask. What you find is that by just acknowledging that discomfort or that tension, is often the tension goes away very quickly, because they feel safe that they've been seen. So that's really the big thing. My next stage after this would be to do it loose in the box with no head collar, lead rope or bridle on. Once this is going well, is I want to do it totally loose with absolutely nothing. Again, the reason is I never want to get away with something with a horse. I don't want it to be going seemingly well, and then 6 months down the line, all of a sudden I realise, oh, the horse was never particularly comfortable with that. It was just internalising and trying a bit too hard, and now it can't cope anymore, which I think, it really can happen with horses. They're very generous creatures and they try really hard for us. So the big main thing is don't get away with anything. If it's not going well, just slow down and keep repeating steps until the horse is letting you know that it's happy.